Your pantry is filled with wood pulp, and the food industry has been putting it there for decades. This fibrous material, scientifically known as cellulose, hides in plain sight on ingredient labels across thousands of products, from shredded cheese to low-fat ice cream. Most people have no idea they're consuming what's essentially processed tree matter with every bite. Walk into any grocery store and pick up a bag of pre-shredded cheese. Flip it over and scan the ingredients. You'll likely see cellulose or powdered cellulose listed right there. That's wood pulp added to prevent the cheese from clumping together. Check your low-fat bread, your instant coffee, even your organic products. Cellulose appears everywhere, and it's completely legal. The story of how we ended up eating wood begins in 18th century Europe, where wheat shortages forced bakers to get creative. Faced with dwindling flour supplies in the 1700s, European bread makers discovered they could stretch their wheat by mixing in sawdust. What started as desperation became innovation. And by the 1970s, food companies had perfected the art of adding cellulose to bulk up products, improve texture, and create that creamy mouthfeel in reduced fat foods. Today, cellulose drives a massive global industry. The powdered cellulose market was valued at $2.57 billion in 2024 and is projected to reach $4.36 billion by 2032. The food-grade cellulose market alone represents $402 million, expected to grow to over $600 million by 2034. We're not just eating a little wood fiber here and there. We're consuming an industrial-scale operation. But here's where it gets interesting. Cellulose doesn't just sneak into junk food or cheap products. It infiltrates organic foods too. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, only powdered cellulose in its least manipulated form can be used in foods labeled organic or made with organic ingredients. So that premium organic shredded cheese you're paying extra for, it still contains wood pulp. The Food and Drug Administration has approved cellulose as safe since 1973, with no limit on how much can be added to most foods. The only restriction comes from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which regulates meat products and has set a 3.5% limit on cellulose, because fiber in meat cannot be recognized nutritionally. For everything else, manufacturers can add as much as they want. This unlimited use led to one of the most shocking food scandals in recent memory. In February 2016, Bloomberg News exposed a widespread cheese fraud that rocked the industry. Their investigation revealed that Pennsylvania-based Castle Cheese Incorporated had been doctoring its 100% real Parmesan with cut-rate substitutes and fillers like wood pulp, then distributing it to some of the country's biggest grocery chains. The findings were staggering. Walmart's Great Value brand cheese contained 7 to 10% cellulose. Bloomberg's independent laboratory tests showed Essential Everyday brand cheese was 8.8% cellulose. Even Kraft Heinz cheese, boldly labeled 100% grated Parmesan cheese, contained 3.8% cellulose. To put this in perspective, anything between 2 and 4% is considered an acceptable level by industry standards. The scandal triggered a wave of lawsuits. An Illinois woman filed a class action against Kraft Heinz in federal court, followed by similar suits in New York, Missouri, and California. Walmart faced its own legal challenges over the Great Value brand. By June 2016, 16 separate class action lawsuits had been consolidated into one massive case. Dr. Kathleen Boyton, a gastroenterologist at the University of Utah, offered a perspective that might surprise you. I would rather eat wood product than I would some of those color additives. I mean, those were made in a lab. At least wood's been around forever. Her point highlights a fascinating paradox in our food system. We worry more about natural plant fiber than synthetic chemicals created in laboratories. Sharon Palmer, a registered dietitian and author of The Plant-Powered Diet, explains the science. It's a basic building block in plants' cell walls. It comes from various sources, and wood pulp is just one of them. I'm not aware of any research that points to health risks related to cellulose in foods. The FDA, Center for Science in the Public Interest, and Environmental Working Group all agree on its safety. Cellulose works in food because of what it doesn't do in our bodies. Humans lack the enzymes needed to break down cellulose, so it passes through our digestive system completely intact. It's an insoluble fiber that doesn't dissolve in water, which makes it perfect for adding bulk without calories and helping with digestion. This property makes cellulose incredibly versatile for food manufacturers. It prevents shredded cheese from clumping, adds fiber content to white bread, and thickens low-fat ice cream to give it the same creamy texture as full-fat versions. It's hiding in artificial sweeteners, baking mixes, chili powders, cocoa mixes, instant coffee, seasonings, soup mixes, and even non-dairy creamers. Fast food restaurants have embraced cellulose too. Taco Bell's nacho cheese sauce contains it, as do various cheeses on Wendy's menu, including their Asiago cheese, blue cheese crumbles, and shredded cheddar pepper jack blend. When you're eating fast food, you're almost certainly consuming wood pulp. The ingredient appears on labels under different names designed to sound more appetizing than wood pulp. Look for carboxymethyl cellulose, microcrystalline cellulose, MCC, cellulose gel, or cellulose gum. These are all forms of the same basic substance, processed plant fiber, often derived from wood. Interestingly, you encounter natural cellulose all the time without thinking about it. Those stringy fibers that get stuck in your teeth when you eat celery. That's cellulose in its natural form. Celery is particularly high in cellulose, which is why it's so fibrous and crunchy. The cellulose story reflects a broader shift happening in American food regulation. While the United States continues to approve additives that other countries have banned, there's growing pressure for change. California led the charge with its Food Safety Act, signed by Governor Gavin Newsom in October 2023. The law bans 4 food additives starting in January 2027: brominated vegetable oil, potassium bromate, propylparaben, and red dye number 3. This state-level action is forcing federal agencies to respond. On July 3, 2024, the FDA issued a final rule banning brominated vegetable oil, effective August 2024. The agency cited new studies showing the chemical is no longer safe for consumption. Scott Faber from the Environmental Working Group called the decision a victory for public health, but criticized the decades of regulatory inaction. The international contrast is striking. The European Union banned titanium dioxide, a whitening agent found in thousands of American food products, after concluding in 2021 that it could no longer be considered safe. The European Food Safety Authority couldn't rule out genotoxicity concerns, the possibility that titanium dioxide might damage DNA or chromosomes. This ban now extends to over 36 countries. The FDA maintains its position that titanium dioxide is safe, highlighting a fundamental difference in regulatory philosophy. In Europe, if safety cannot be confirmed, substances are banned. In America, substances remain legal until proven harmful. This difference means Americans consume chemicals that are banned across much of the developed world. Major food companies are already adapting to changing consumer preferences and regulations. PepsiCo removed brominated vegetable oil from Gatorade and confirmed by 2020 that none of its products contain the chemical. Coca-Cola eliminated BVO from all its drinks by 2014. Mars and Tyson Foods are proactively removing titanium dioxide from their products, anticipating future bans. The National Confectioners Association criticized California's independent action, saying it will undermine consumer confidence and create confusion around food safety by acting outside FDA oversight. But consumer advocates argue that federal inaction forces states to protect their residents. Consumer Reports notes that California's economic size means these changes will likely affect food nationwide. It is unlikely manufacturers will produce 2 versions of their product, one to be sold in California and one for the rest of the country. This means all Americans will benefit from California's stricter standards. The cellulose market continues growing, driven partly by demand for natural and clean label products. The food-grade alpha cellulose market is projected to grow from $1.2 billion in 2024 to $2.5 billion by 2034. This growth seems counterintuitive given concerns about additives, but it reflects cellulose's status as a natural ingredient compared to synthetic alternatives. Critics argue that cellulose represents corporate cost-cutting disguised as nutrition. They point out that while cellulose fills our stomachs, it provides no nutritional value. It's essentially inert bulk that allows companies to use less actual food while maintaining product volume and texture. The Parmesan cheese scandal exemplified this concern, with companies selling wood pulp as premium cheese. Supporters counter that cellulose is simply plant fiber, no different from eating vegetables. They note that increased fiber intake benefits digestive health, and that cellulose allows the creation of lower-calorie foods that still taste good. Without cellulose, low-fat ice cream would be watery and unpalatable. The regulatory landscape continues evolving. California's School Food Safety Act bans 6 artificial dyes linked to hyperactivity in children. The FDA has announced that red dye number 3 will be banned in food by January 2027 and in ingested drugs by January 2028. These changes suggest a shift toward European-style precautionary regulation. For consumers, the cellulose revelation raises fundamental questions about food transparency and corporate responsibility. Should companies be required to use more descriptive language than cellulose on labels? Should there be limits on how much filler can be added to products marketed as 100% pure? Should the FDA adopt Europe's precautionary approach to food safety? The answers will shape what's in our pantries for decades to come. Meanwhile, every time you reach for that bag of shredded cheese or container of low-fat ice cream, remember that you're participating in a culinary tradition that stretches back to those desperate European bakers of the 1700s. The difference is that today's wood pulp is highly processed, carefully regulated, and hidden behind scientific names that disguise its humble origins. Your pantry is indeed full of this non-food ingredient, and now you know exactly what it is, where it came from, and why it's there. The question isn't whether you're eating wood pulp, you almost certainly are. The question is whether you're okay with that, and whether our food system's approach to safety and transparency meets your standards as a consumer.